caffeine armed. Would somebody who's in Roll20 present? And I'm going to be doing the DMing here, and I may have to take borrow present from time to time because we're going to be looking at a map. Let's see where you guys are. Oh yeah. Thank you. Okay. So does everybody remember where you parked?
Yes. We had just rescued what was left of the crew of the Trial and Error and Blast from the Past. A few key characters of note were on that ship.
That's right. Her, Eliethia herself. And then Cap, Sharpie, Tam, and whoever the hell this guy is. Eliethia was the only one that wasn't in a low berth. Okay.
Oh, so Cap and them are in low berth right now?
Yeah. That was the deal. Remember when you arrived in this space, you had a couple of scouts that were burning away, trying to get away from the. Well, actually, that's another major thing. From this, that you unfortunately are right next to right now, about 10,000 kilometers away from, I should say. And they had left behind this wreckage, the Trial and Error, and you got a distress signal. Now, and I'll go ahead and refresh because how that worked out is important. You, when you see the group of people that you've rescued finally, Eliethia being the only one that is not in a low berth, in a suit, and then take the helmet off. We'll deal with recognition factors in a moment, but I wanted to point out that when you first got a distress signal from the Trial and Error, it was a male voice that you heard, and that voice claimed to be trying to save their crew. And when you finally get there, you don't. Is she the captain? Is she the one that sent that? And why did you hear a different voice? So there's some confusion and a little mystery to be solved there. But let's get to the big point. Let's see.
I mean, she's been alive for so long and smoking that whole time, so her voice is just
crackly. Yes. We'll get back to Eliethia. Okay. So there are a couple of problems. You don't have low berths on the Gazelle at all. So the standard low berth deal is, yes, you can take the low berths and disconnect them from their support systems, but it's only a temporary thing. Those capsules can sustain life for some hours on their own, but they need that support system to recycle the coolant, to keep everything as it should be so that the person inside doesn't expire, within a day or two. You don't have one of those. And now you have 4 capsules. So it's almost a given that given the timeline that you face now, whatever you do, you're going to have to get them out of there. We'll deal with that in just a moment. But that's the thing that's going through everybody's mind is that these 4 are on borrowed time. Now, you don't recognize any of them. None of the characters that you're playing now, even though the players do, but none of the characters you're playing now know any of these people. You just know them as people that you've rescued from the ship. But Eliethia, on the other hand, that's a different matter. She's in textbooks, history books. You've seen pictures of her. No one has actually seen her in person in Rithipal Landing for decades. When she takes that helmet off, and why don't you everybody roll a d6, and we'll just kind of see who happens to be the lucky one. You talked about a rough voice, and all of a sudden I sound like I smoke. Virgil, Samuel. All right. So looking like Loki. So Loki, you're actually the first person to see this mysterious suited figure take off her helmet after you have shuttled everybody back aboard. Remember, you had the help of your battle dress people
Right.
to do that. But all of a sudden, this she takes her helmet off and thanks you for rescuing them. And of course, you recognize that face instantly because this is one of the faces, of the founders of Rithable Landing. And it's like, wait, what? So take it from here, Loki. You have a historical figure standing before you.
What's her last name? Anyways, Loki uses her, full name and says, "Is that you? You should be."
Eliethia actually tends to have a very expressionless face, but you see her frown when you say her last name.
Loki holds up the laptop and she says, "Here, use your bio."
She sighs. Are you from Rithable Landing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. She nods, and there's a look of resignation on her face. You're part of the crew. Do you have a captain that I can talk to?
Yes. You have not rolled on you. You got a call.
So
I don't think you've ever actually said so and so's captain. You're just kind of as a group managing things.
yeah, I was about to say
Specifically said this person is the captain.
Virgil would kind of no.
And yeah, we'll say other folks are starting to show up down there based on your
Bitterman.
roles. Who would be next? Bitterman,
I guess
actually.
if we need a captain, I'll be the captain.
Yeah, because you were a captain, actually.
I'm just an old major.
Well, let's do this in order. Bitterman, you show up. You're just you're checking out to see if there's anything you can do. You and Chris, and you walk in and you see a historical figure talking with Loki, and she has kind of a glower look on her face. It's like she was caught stealing from the candy jar. So how do you treat this moment?
Well, I think Bitterman's a pragmatist, and knowing there's an ever expanding black orb of death nearby, he's not going to worry too much about it right now. And say,
Wise
can we
man.
get these low bursts on board so we can be moving away?
An immensely wise man, because he's correct. Because the black sphere is expanding at a steady rate. You have no more than an hour or so before it reaches where you're at. And
I'll be working
by
with
your
Bob.
count and the reports from Angela and Emiko, yes, they've gotten everything that Eliethia here says. All those survivors that needed to get aboard are aboard. So that's probably a good time that Angela would report up to the bridge and say, "Yeah, we got everybody." And at that point, I believe it was Virgil and Samuel who were on the bridge driving.
Yeah.
So what do you guys do when you're told, "Hey, we have everything aboard"?
Sam, punch it.
Okay.
So go ahead and roll a piloting roll there, Samuel.
So it's punch it, not engage, or make it so, or
That's how you operate the controls on this thing. Is you have to punch it and kick it and cajole it. Una really
Hey,
beat him up real good, yeah.
I make my own catchphrases. I'm not one to copy others.
Uppercut it, Sam. Oh yeah, like oh my god. Yeah, the movie with Dude on it and Guy. It's like catchphrase. So yeah. Oh yeah, no problem. So the Eliethia spins around, gets a little bit of distance from the still flaming wreckage of the Trial and Error, and then just opens up 4 Gs. and you're out of there. You're moving away. That, if you're, nothing changes with the glowing ball of death. Like the scouts before you, you'll be able to outrun that expanding field, no problem, before you can get to a safe distance to jump someplace. All right, so that's Bitterman. Let's see. Anna, we'll do you next. So Anna heard low berths, and Anna realized immediately what I was saying before. We don't have any place to plug these guys in, so it's going to be it's a medical emergency right now. You got to figure out how to get these folks out. So Anna, you pile into it's the cargo bay wherever all these berths have been kind of shoved in because it's really tight. You don't have a big cargo bay on this thing,
Right.
so they've all been shoved in right next to each other. And you run in there and you don't even glance over at Eliethia because you're very focused on what I got to do with these berths, what I got to do with these berths. You get to the first one and roll your medical. And there are going to be several important rolls that Anna's going to make here. But we'll start with this one.
Oh, come on. Get the right place.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So here's what you discover. You get to the first one, which is Sharpie, the drone.
Mm-hmm.
And okay. Check life signs. Okay. In hibernation, he's alive. In fact, all of them are. All right. This should be doable. You've had some practice with low bursts before. It's not something that Rithipal Landing needs to use routinely because you don't do jump travel, right? You move around in system, but still there's a place for these berths. There's a necessity from time to time to put somebody in hibernation that's very sick, or for various reasons. So this is not something that's new to you, but something that kind of leaps out at you as you start. Okay, great. Remember the process. Got to get this right. Right. Okay. Start. Let's look at the status screen. See how much. Oh my God. No. That can't be right. Good. Back. Click. Status. Yes. This drone has been in this pod for 65 years. Wow. Normally, people stay in these pods for a week.
Right.
So what's your reaction to that? And if you look at the other three, yeah, all of them, 65 years.
Wow.
Check for freezer.
It looks like they all were put in lowers within an hour of each other. And they've been in there ever since. 65 years.
We're going to need a lot of birthday candles.
Well, depends on how long has Eliethia been unthawed herself. That's the other question.
Are you gonna look over at the moving person? Kind of try to talk to them. What do you have to say? By the way, as you do, it's like, wait, what? That's you textbook history, Eliethia. That's her.
She's like,
And by now, Eliethia is noticing all of these, reactions of recognition, and every time it happens, it's
yeah.
It's about to get worse.
I can imagine.
So what do you ask her?
So how long have you been out?
I haven't been under.
Somehow I was afraid of that.
I came here with the Aslan. It's going to take a lot of explaining, I think.
She kind of nodded. She knows she was a special case. So
can you save them? And you turn back to the controls. Go ahead and wind up another roll. But as you're doing that, we'll say Samuel and Virgil, you got your backup. You know the pilot for the launch. As soon as you laid in your course, and so yeah, Virgil and Samuel both, you're there. Yeah, and looks like Loki's going to go over and help Anna. Loki, you notice the same thing Anna just noticed. She didn't say anything about the 65 years. And then you look at those panels, you're going to try to help her, and there's what?
Yeah.
So yeah, they're I'll say that makes this whole process of bringing these people back alive much more difficult. And you and Anna kind of share a glance, and you realize that this is like nothing you've trained for or have knowledge of. You're going to have to make up a way to get these people back alive
Well,
because
you've been in here for 65 years. If you can help, get over here. If you can't, go on and clear out and let us. We have room.
and you're kind of hearing that Samuel and Virgil as you arrive in the cargo bay. That Loki and Anna are huddled over these 4 low berths, and Loki says, "Hey, these guys have been frozen for 65 years. What?" And it's about that time you look over and you see Eliethia, and she looks over and looks at Samuel, and Samuel, you're like everybody else, you're just kind of momentarily slack-jawed in recognition, and then she looks at Virgil and cocks her head. "Who are you?"
So I introduce myself. I go, it's like, hi, former Major Virgil Navarro. Nice to meet you. Were you the individual I was talking to on comms?
He kind of looks away and smiles. "So you're Agatha's son?"
And he just nods, like, yes.
Yeah, she nods. "Yes, I am the person that you were talking to on comms." And she holds up a hand and kind of gets the suit undone a little bit more and pulls out a little device, puts over her mouth, and changes it immediately to sound like the male voice that you heard. "I've had to do a little bit of espionage in order to escape."
That will cock Virgil's head. Like, escape? Is that what you were trying to do just now?
It worked, didn't it?
It did. And Virgil kind of looks at everyone that's staring. Is like, hey, all non-essential crew members back to your posts.
And Loki's like, "That's what I've been saying." Eliethia says, "Can we talk someplace?" And as many people as you feel need to hear the story, but she looks over at Loki and Anna. Those people are important to me. They're one of the reasons I came out here.
I understand. If you wish, you can discuss your story with me on the bridge, or I'm sure there's another room that's unoccupied that be discussed between me and you. If you're comfortable with that.
Okay, so yeah, there's several spaces, wardroom, any of the yeah. And again, as she said, she's not necessarily one to talk just to you. It's like to whomever on this crew needs to hear this. So you guys, and we'll go ahead and swap for a moment. Find my mouse. Where's the mouse? There's the mouse. All right, now it's this one. Okay, take that. So you notice on the first deck, yeah, right here. This is the wardroom. It's the largest social space. Used to be, where officers would hang out and have their meals and meetings and such. That would be the typical place to do this sort of thing. So whoever wants to hang in the wardroom, you kick out the people that are in there having dinner. They get back to work. And this guy's actually on the bridge now. So yeah, you take her up there. And whoever wants to show up, you can just drag yourself over there. Because she has a story to tell. All right, let's see here.
Trying to figure out where I'm at. There he is.
Like I said, I put you back with the engine. You're talking about John.
Yeah.
Way back here.
Yeah, I got him. Anna's busy.
Yeah, Anna is busy. No, let's see. Emiko. Where's my team here? Oh yeah, here we go. Is gonna hang out with Anna and Loki.
Bob's there helping with the machinery.
Yeah, Bob does machinery stuff. And then I have a scene with that here in a moment. Okay. So let's see who we have in there. Sid, Janice, John, Bitterman, Chris, and I'm assuming also
Plan to put Samuel in there, but I can't find him.
He's hiding on the bridge.
yeah, there he is. I found him. I was talking to C about this earlier. You know, it's this particular backdrop is so bold. It's kind of hard to see where your characters are. So I had to do something about it at some point. But yeah, that gives me a better idea. I know Virgil's in there somewhere. Yeah, see him. All right. So you gather the crew, except those that are off doing other things. And there's a lot of everybody here recognizes that face. You know, now that she's out of the spacesuit, she's wearing what you saw, the kind of the flowing gray robe. Otherwise, nothing really special. She's you won't need a roll to note a couple of important things. One is that she's supposed to be, or she was supposed to have been in her 30s or 40s when the Rithapol landed on the ring world. That would make her 130 years old now. 140, 150. And you guys have seen what Dante and Una look like at that age, or even younger. They look like they're 120 or 130 years old. And the only reason that they've survived that long was because of all of the cybernetics that have been keeping them alive, because they were injured so severely in that last fight. They ironically ended up outliving everybody else that was on the Rithapol. But here you have Eliethia, who doesn't look like she's aged a day from the picture that you've seen in the textbooks.
I feel like a chill just went down your spine as you insinuated Una looked her age.
Yeah, yes, yeah, for real. How dare you mention my age? That's the first thing you notice. The second thing is, and everybody roll 1d6 that's in that room. Some of you will probably, you talk about chills down your spine. That's what we're about to evaluate, and I have to pick out a document I haven't looked at in a while. No. Shoot. You gotta find it.
I was wanting Pris to growl a little when everyone's paying attention to Eliethia. And Bitterman just pets her and says, "Don't worry, you're still the prettiest girl on the boat."
Okay, good. I found what I was looking for. You guys rolled something back at character creation. I doubt you even remember what it is, because it's been a while, but it's about to be important. Let's see how you did. Okay. So Bitterman, right. Virgil, right. Loki, you're not in the room. You're working on.
Sid.
Okay, right. Okay. Okay, maybe. It's John. Nope. Samuel. Nope. And Janice. Yes. Okay. So she looks around at everybody in the room after you've all gathered. And taking everybody, as though she's taking everybody in. It looks from Virgil's perspective, it's the look of a diplomat who's trying to size up the room and she's about to make a negotiation. But that's not necessarily the impression that everybody else gets. Sid, Neff mentioned having a kind of a chill down your spine.
Right?
When she looks at you, you feel a chill down your spine. Almost an intense tingling. As the hairs on the back of your neck kind of raise up in alarm at something, but you're not quite sure what.
Got
And then-
bad about this.
And then Janice, you realize, because you've actually experienced this once, that she just probed your mind and did it in a almost stiletto type fashion. She looked at you, did it, moved on. And if you have one of the highest psi scores. In fact, you do have the highest psi score of everybody in this room. So you were the only one to actually identify what just happened.
That's not very nice.
Chris, she's not alarmed by Alethia's presence. And Eliethia doesn't do the same thing to Pris as she does to everybody else. She doesn't do this mind probe thing. But Pris does stay really close to Bitterman. It's even more than the normal pack. We're hanging together thing. She seems a little fearful. It's not fearful like she was with that the Cthulhu horror that you dealt with a few games ago. No, that was a whole different thing. This is just, she's really intimidated by Eliethia. Okay. Well, Eliethia finishes all that and then looks over at Virgil and says, yeah, I am Eliethia. I knew your mother for many years as she grew up. And I knew your grandmother, who I know you've never met. So I know you have questions. Please, by all means, ask them. Looking around at everybody.
What happened? Why were they in stasis?
She nods at that. I actually don't know. I can say this. They're old friends of mine from the before times. I knew them. Well, I met them in, 105 years ago. They saved my life. They saved your grandmother's life too. No, they didn't. That was before that. They saved your grandfather's life. Looking over at John. At the same time. So when I realized that they were here, I wanted to try to save them. But I don't know why they're here. I'm just glad we found them. I'm just glad that you were here to help me save them.
So what's that ever expanding big ball of black death?
She kind of really, she smiles at that, the directness of it. I do know what that is. That is an ancient jump cannon. It's one of the devices that was used to create the to basically put the entire ring world system into jump space and immobilize it there. It's a weapon, or that's how the ancients used it anyway, to try to trap their enemies.
So is that what's happening now? You're going to try and trap the ring world?
That's what Relemica wanted, yes. And there's that name. That's the boss Aslan, that the folks that invaded Rithipal Landing and caused all that ruckus, caused so much loss of life. Relemica is the guy that they were following.
If he can't get to it, no one else can.
It's worse than that. Relemica does want to close off access to the ring world here, but through our research, we found ways to travel between the other ring worlds. There are probably about 20 of them scattered throughout the galaxy. Hey, buddy. That still have the means to be able to go from one to the other. And once you're at one of those others, many of them have the means to exit the jump bubble surrounding their construction systems. So it's simply a means to create a highway that he can use to begin his conquests that nobody else has the means to access. And I have to admit, she kind of leans back against the wall, that a lot of that is my fault.
Well, was saving these individuals part of your redemption?
No. No, my redemption is far down the road, I'm sure. No, saving these individuals was just the right thing to do. And besides, it was my time to finally break with Relemic. He had attacked Rithipal Landing. That was the line that kept me from attacking him, the threat. As long as he left Rithipal Landing alone, then I would agree to help him. But he broke his word. That left me free to act. So
Imprudent of him to let you know.
he didn't let me know. I have my own ways of finding out. So he sent teams out here with the now that he discovered the location of this installation, with the intention of activating it to reestablish the jump bubble around our ring world, and by doing so activates the ability to get to other ring worlds and expand from there. The locations of these ring worlds, we don't know yet. We just know that they are in places that are both near and far. But I believe that I've successfully sabotaged that. We activated this installation all right, but it's in the throes of destroying itself as we speak. It doesn't work so well when its own defense screens are holding in the energy necessary to create that jump field. Big glowing ball of death. But pretty soon his team is going to be reporting back to him as soon as they jump back to the ring world what's happened, and there may be repercussions. He won't have any reason to hold back at that point.
Well, neither do we, which is a problem.
He kind of cocks her head at you and just waits for you to continue.
There's more going on with the ring world than I'm sure Relemica knows. It's
What do you
starting. Well, it's starting to breed, start its next life cycle. Through research from a very old friend, these ring worlds were the after effects of Salmankal swallowing solar systems. He would eat. This would be the side effect. He gave birth to a ring world, which is just part of the life cycle of this entity. Essentially, it would grow in time and breed the ships that would create another one. They can't be controlled. They have their own sentience. We've been finding some of these ships being birthed from the ring world, and it's multiplying. very rapidly. The ring world was also acting very negatively toward my mother because of her blood type. She is off world at an undisclosed location. Even I don't know. But
Bet you do know, by the way, but yes. But you say that, yeah.
and
So hearing all that, Eliethia kind of sinks down into a chair and is actually seems to be shocked at what you're saying. So the ring world is alive?
yes, we discovered it by accident. It seems that these ring worlds are just like an embryo. Eventually, the egg hatches and the ships are born and they form a full-on Monsalamus. Now, we don't know what happens to the ring world or how it activates and decides now is the time to, manufacture, but that's exactly what these are doing. We've several of these ships. We've even seen them in combat with other ships. It's right now being reactive. It's it's only attacking those it sees as a threat, but as of right now, it's not attacked with full landing again.
He nods and says, yeah, I understand why that might be, because even when we first encountered it, it didn't strike me as intelligent. It acted on instinct, as large and complex as it was. There was no mind there to reach out to. And she pauses when she says that, realizing that she may have let something drop. She didn't mean to. But yes, your observation seems to match our own. Creature of instinct, though, that massive, is terribly dangerous. A whole ring world like that.
Especially when you built your house on its back.
He just nods. She, at that moment, happens to glance up at the wall and sees the ship dedication plaque, which is still the original one, that says Eliethia. And she kind of takes in a sharp breath. Where did you find this ship?
That's classified. It was being kept by an old friend.
Roll a d6. All right. She glances over at you. Actually, Janice also roll a d6. Yeah, doing good. Janice, it wasn't directed at you, but you got the impression that Eliethia just probed Virgil's mind. Now, this is all very kind of nebulous impressions that you're getting. You're not trained in this stuff, but you've known for most of your life, because those that have been trained, there are very few on Rithable Landing. You've had some experience with it. So yeah, you recognize that when Virgil tried to hold back something, Eliethia just glanced at him, and she seems to be an old pro at it. If she got anything, she doesn't give any reaction. But she looks back up at the dedication plaque. I was named after this ship. Yeah, she nods.
Well, that's an interesting thing. This is Janice. But that's interesting. I find that interesting.
How so?
Why would a Zodani noble be named after a imperial escort cutter?
And she looks at you. So I ask again, where did you find this ship?
Technically, I didn't find it or anyone here. Like
He
I
looks
said,
over at Virgil.
it was found and kept by an old friend. We fixed it up, and it flies just fine.
We found it on the ring world. I know that's kind of nebulous, but it's not like they can give you exact coordinates. Or,
So I can't answer that burning question in your mind about how this ship was found and rescued, I guess. But this was given to us. If we could fix it, we could fly it. And we fixed it, so we're flying it. It's a good ship. Nothing wrong with her yet. Flies straight and true.
So you hear the door behind you open up, and Angela walks in. She's out of the battle dress by now. I just wanted to let everybody know that they're still working on those cryopods. And is that? She looks over at Eliethia. Same
Yep.
reaction the rest of you have had, right? But unlike the rest of you, Eliethia looks back at Angela in shock. You look just like her. And Angela's like, who? And Eliethia kind of shakes her head, glances at Virgil. Never mind. With that awkward moment, Angela kind of backs out of the room, having made her report. Do you know much about your grandmother, Virgil?
No, can't say that I have. My grandfather didn't really impart much to my mother. Mother didn't impart anything to me.
So Eliethia says that her name was Rochelle Navarre. We found her in the Diganzio system. Well, there's a lot to tell, but I think the important thing right now is that she wasn't born on the Diganzio system. She was born on the ring world.
Hmm.
And so was I.
The plot thickens.
She looks around for somebody with a pad. And one of you, if you have one and is willing to offer it, just a personal computer, so she can look something up. So let's see. Need to find that picture here. Oh yeah, here we go. So, God, if I'm getting my dates right, and it's hardly certain, and I don't know the whole story, but it's important to, I think, that you understand. About 140 years ago, maybe 135 thereabouts, there was an Imperium scientific expedition that was researching one of the ancients' ruins. Actually, I think inside the core, there are several scattered all over the place. This ship was part of that expedition, not a science vessel by any means, but nevertheless, necessary to protect the scientists as they did their work. There was an accident. Several of the ships entered jump and never emerged. At least not back in the Imperium. I don't know the whole story, but I do know that at least 3 ships showed up in the Ringworld system. One of them was this ship here, the Eliethia. They found the Ringworld, they landed, and they tried to find a way back, much like the people of Rithpa Landing did. Except this time, they had her, Dr. Munray. And she holds up that pad that shows that, Dr. Munray is, according to this, was a prominent archaeologist, ancientologist of a century and a half ago that went missing on one of the various expeditions that the Imperium had going at the time. Well, the other thing that strikes you is the strong resemblance between Munray and Angela.
yes.
Well, Dr. Munray found the means to escape from the Ringworld space. she realized that it had something to do with particular genetic key patterns necessary to activate gates, and so she went about trying to create those genetic patterns. The only way that she could do that was she had to use ancient technology to expedite her experiments. And where in their explorations of the ring world, they came across numerous ancient ruins, including one that had what appeared to be a functioning biological lab and something that could be used for flash cloning. Except when they found that facility, that's where they found me. I was already there. I'm not Zodani. In fact, I don't know what I am. But they activated the machine. They managed to extricate me, and they raised me, and they named me after their ship. Monray continued her experiments. She ended up trying to make clones of herself, necessary to activate these gates, and she succeeded. Some of us were able to, by accident, were ejected from the ring world. I don't know what happened to Dr. Monray or the rest of the team, but I do know that Rochelle and her sister and her mother, they were actually clones of the same person, Dr. Monray. So I'm rather surprised to see another one. Now, if you remember the original game, Eliethia claimed to have this artifact, that gave access to something. Was taking it to her mentor, she said, who was in the sword worlds. But then you came across Rochelle, and this plot surrounding blood types emerged. The part of that involved Anne Catherine, but also part of it involved Rochelle herself and Agatha later on. So there are multiple threads here, but they are actually connected at a root. Eliethia, she says, so that is why I'm named after this ship. I actually met the original crew. They raised me, and I was trying to get back to them to find out what had happened. So, do you know what happened to them?
Virgil shakes his head and goes, "No, I was not privy to that information."
That we saw, there was nobody there.
Yeah, the ship had been there derelict for decades. There was no telling what had happened. And Una herself didn't have any answers, what the ship was doing there, etc. So, yeah, Eliethia nods at that. But now you've learned something about her. She's not Zodani. And if the timeline's correct, she was there before these folks actually showed up, to try to regenerate this alien tech for their purposes. So that means that either some group before them or the ancients themselves had something to do with Alethia's creation. She doesn't know. And these folks weren't able to find out. But that lady there, Dr. Monray, is the roots of Rochelle, Angela, the whole line of those folks all go back to her. All right, so while you think about that, let's go to the 4 pods in the crammed into the cargo bay, and Loki and Anna and Emiko trying to extricate them. Now, who did you want to work on first? It might matter. What's that?
So we were starting on Sharpie, I thought. That's when we had open.
Well, that's the one that you were poking at, but you don't have to actually start with Sharpie. Do you want to look at the others and kind of see what's going on, and Loki, you're there too. You get a vote. Steve may have wandered off. So, all right. So, Sharpie it is.
I mean, that's the one she had her hands on. So
All right.
there aren't that many drones running around. So
That's right. Yeah, they're actually quite rare and visible. So, Anna, medical role, and
let me get on the right thing here.
Loki, if Loki, you're around, also a
Oh,
medical role. You doze off on us?
Yeah, I dozed off. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Unless we're fighting something, yeah, it's hard to keep your attention. Oh, okay. And
I
trying
slept
to
well, but I'm still sleepy.
yeah, but they do that. Okay. hmm So Sharpie, here's the deal with Sharpie, and this is going to be kind of the way this goes. So long-term habitation in a low berth eventually leads to death. And it's what's happening is that the low berth is suppressing metabolic function partly by through cryogenics, but also through some substances that are injected into the bloodstream to keep cells from freezing and forming crystals.
Yeah.
You've probably heard that that's one of the main reasons why cryogenic suspension doesn't work today. Is as soon as you freeze somebody, the cells break because ice forms and expands and cracks and cells are dead. Well, that has begun to happen. It's happening throughout his body. It's concentrated in the extremities, and that would make sense, just kind of intuitively, because the core, where most of the fluids in the body reside, that seems to be doing relatively well, as is the brain, because there are major pipelines up to the brain. Also, the injection points that you set up whenever you put somebody in a low berth focus on the brain and the core. But Sharpie's arms, legs, tail are showing essentially signs of a severe frostbite.
Yeah.
Because that's what's happened is ice has begun to crystallize in those cells in random places. So what's that?
Freezer burn.
Freezer burn, exactly. So the problem is if you go through the normal procedure of trying to revive him, blood will begin circulating and attempt to circulate to those frozen regions, pick up toxins that have accumulated there, and then distribute them throughout the body. And that'll kill him.
Yeah.
So you have to make a decision, rather fateful, about how you want to proceed. What your options are dire. You can amputate those extremities before you revive him. That means you have to pop the top while he's still frozen and take the extremities off, seal those wounds, and then try to revive, the core and the brain. And he's at that point, he doesn't have arms, legs, or a tail. You can try to make another roll, but see if you can come up with some high-tech medications that may be around to try to heal those cells as they're being revived, and that's riskier.
It sounds like
I think he might think so. Yeah. So, how do you want to proceed? You want to try the high-tech route, which is riskier because you may not have what you need.
Well, she's going to research something just because she has a specialty here.
Okay. Oh, okay. It would certainly be possible to add cybernetics after the fact.
Right. As far as keeping them alive, as far as she would know how to set for that, leave things open,
Okay.
for augmentation.
Bitterman notices a tattoo on Sharpie's shoulder. It says DNRWT. Do
Yeah,
not resuscitate without tail.
Yeah.
that's right. Tail's important to a drone. Yeah. Now there's also some damage to his eyes,
Mm.
and because he's a drone, some of the like the fin that he has, they're going for the top of his head down there.
Yeah.
It's all of these different things, provide different challenges. So I'm not going to make you roll for everything, but I did want you to have a clear understanding of what you're up against before you make a decision.
Right.
It's going to be a difficult roll to save all of it.
Yeah.
But if you prepare yourselves and have a good plan, maybe you can save most of it.
Yeah. Like I said, given those challenges, it may be worth moving on to the next one to see what's going on with them too.
Yeah, good idea, because he's good for about 20 more hours.
Yeah.
The pod will sustain him at that level. All right, so who do you want to look at next? Okay, so everybody, both of you roll medic rolls. Okay. Right. Similar situation, a little better than Sharpie, but a similar situation. Part of the advantage that Tam has is she's actually size matters. She's the largest of all four of them. Varg are pretty tall, pretty bulky, and it turns out that bulk has an insulating effect on most of the cells that would have been affected otherwise. She still is suffering from that frostbite in the extremities, and on the nose, eyes, ears, tail. Yeah, and that's what you get out of Tam. Tam would be better, an easier resuscitation than Sharpie.
Yeah.
But it has a similar challenges. Core looks good, brain looks good. She would probably survive it. But what would there be of her left?
Right.
So let's pick another one. You got two more. All right. Roll your medics, both of you.
I guess we'll move on to Cap.
That's pretty good. And let's see what you rolled there, Chris.
I'm gonna try and get there. Hang on.
Yeah.
Every time I click on something, the character sheet goes away.
Oh yeah. Cap's in good shape
All right.
based on what you're seeing. He has minor signs of frostbite, just for the same reasons. But for whatever reason, probably
He's
because
pretty
he drinks
hefty too, so
he's pretty hefty too, and he drinks too much. So maybe the alcohol saved him. But yeah, but it looks like he's probably best off of all of them. He's there are a couple of anomalies that you notice. Tam and Sharpie, were just in there, and it looks like they had been prepared, so they're actually wearing suits. Typically, you don't put somebody in there in street clothes.
yeah.
You have a whole sensor shroud that you wear, and it's just kind of body form fitting. Whereas it looks like Cap is in his spacesuit. The helmet, he's got the helmet raised, but it looks like he entered the chamber in a spacesuit.
He dove in there in a hurry. Yeah.
Okay. So, and that's unusual. I mean, it's a wonder that he actually was able to do that. But you might, but he does look like he's best off with the rest. And so there's only one left, the old guy.
Yeah.
So rolls from you guys. Okay. So the old guy, similar story as Tam, better off than Sharpie, not as good as Cap. Although the interesting is, and you're not quite sure why this is, the signs of frostbite are reversed. He has more signs of frostbite on the core, which is not where you'd expect it to be, than in the extremities, and also the brain as well. It looks like there might actually be some frostbite in the brain, which is very unusual. So now you know about all four of them and the challenges that you face. How would you like to proceed?
I would say Cap, then Tam.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Roll for Cap. And what was your procedure? What was your decision with Cap? You just want to he's got some frostbite, but it doesn't look like it'll kill him if you
Right.
if you get him out of there. But he's still going to be suffering from that. So
Yeah.
it's not going to be pretty. All right. So go ahead and roll it. See what you got. This is for Cap. Okay. And Loki. Loki, did you doze off on us again? Yep, I think you did. Okay. Let's see here. So you work on Cap for about an hour. Taking it very, very slowly. Oh no! Wait a minute. He actually dropped. Now I've noticed why we don't hear Loki. Perhaps Loki will return. No, he dropped the hangout. Okay. So you work on Cap for about an hour, and you realize that okay, the only way you can make this work is if you have to pop him while he's still frozen and cut that suit off, because you need to be able to inject chemicals necessary to reactivate cellular function in a controlled fashion, and he doesn't have any of those hookups. As you say, he dived into the pod, did the minimum necessary to get himself frozen. Obviously not really expecting to live, but
Yeah.
that's what he did. So this isn't something that the two of you want to do alone. So you probably want to call for some help. You got to manhandle the pod open. You basically probably want a muscle and an engineer to help out. A
Yeah.
mechanics role and a strength role.
We bring John in here, but it ain't a strength role.
Well, Emiko's right there, and she says, "I'll get in the battle dress, and that way I can move anything you need to get moved."
There we go.
All right, so that's one. And then Anna, you can call up for John to say,
Yeah.
"John, come down here."
That worked.
So let's get a mechanics roll from John. His job is to pop the top without breaking it.
Yeah.
And that, by the
Bitterman
way,
Bitterman is wondering out loud, remembering a bad case of kidney stones he had back on the Ring World.
oh man,
They
yeah.
used sonic waves to break up the kidney stones so that they would pass easier. So he asked the medical people, "Hey, if you have crystals in their blood that are bad, can you use sonic waves to break up the crystals before thawing them? Would that help? Or would you break their bodies apart? I don't know."
Yeah, the answer to that is that yes, you can, but the crystals have already done their damage. They've already pierced the cellular membranes, but just by forming. So yes, you can break up the crystals, but when you thaw everything out, it's still dead tissue. So yeah, it's a bad thing. It's a bad situation to be in. That's a great mechanic role. So, and the other thing is because you're about to flood the deck with cryogenic fluids, everybody's in a suit. So here you go. It's like a scene from a horror movie. You've got John. He's like, removes all the emergency bolts. Okay, he signals to Emiko, and Emiko just with a big battle dress lifts the thing up, and sure enough, the whole chamber just goes in fog as the welcome back, as the cryogenics just flood out and over the sides and just kind of quickly dissipate into the atmosphere in there, and the temperature drops like 100 degrees, within seconds.
I'm on my phone.
Oh, yeah. Are you having crazy internet issues? No, okay. They just they're trying to revive Cap, so what they had to get John in there to do a mechanic roll to open up the lid, and Emiko's there in battle dress, kind of lifting it. All the cryogenic fluids had flooded into the chamber. And then Anna, you dive in there, and Loki, and you're trying to do what you can to save Cap's life. You cut away that suit and set up the injection points. And now that you cut the suit away, it actually looks worse than you thought. But it takes about an hour to do this whole thing. When you're done, Cap is alive, but barely. And it's also clear now, and this was not clear when you were just looking at him through that frosted window as you look into these low bursts. He's injured. I mean, otherwise injured. He has a, it looks like he's been shot a couple of times. And you don't have to roll for it. Loki, Anna, you've seen enough wounds that it looks like this was a laser blast. So he was shot with a laser through the suit, which is just a fairly high-powered laser. But the suit sealed itself up as it's supposed to. But he didn't. You don't repair those wounds on your own. So you're going to have to deal with that. So you've got him out, and it looks like you need to do some amputations. A bit of the foot, one of the hand, a couple of fingers, in order to save the rest of them as he thaws. That's a lot better than cutting off the arms and the legs, and that's going to be you're just going to have to deal with it. But what do you want to do about these laser wounds? Because you're going to have to, as he thaws out, they're going to become acute. So that's something you have to deal with pretty quick. All right. So you move him away and make a roll. And as you move him away, Emiko lowers the hood, as it were. And John, you can shut down the pod. You don't have to roll for that. So Emiko, or rather Loki and Anna, let's see a medic roll. Okay. So yeah, you've got him stabilized. You think he's good. So John and Emiko, you get the duty of taking Cap to one of the bunks so you can get him under covers and try to warm him up.
Yeah.
I'm sure at that point that's when they would call up and say, "Hey, we need somebody to look after these people as we wake them up. They're not conscious, but they need care, and we're busy." So one by one, different members of the crew will be sitting in at bedside to try to see to these folks, as they're recovering over the next several hours. Who do you want to try next? Okay. So let's see medic rolls. We're going to wear out your medic roll by the time we're done. Oh, okay. Very good. Okay. So Tam, it's like we discussed, she's in the best shape. There's some frostbite there, but okay, we can deal with that. All right. So yeah, pop the lid. Again, you got John there, John and Emiko to help you with that. So you don't have to worry about that. You can even drain out more of the cryogenics before you pop the lid, so you don't have to worry about that part so much, which warms her up. That was why you needed to, rush in with Cap, because you couldn't afford to wait.
Yeah.
But upon draining out some more of the cryogenics, let's see, Loki, Anna, make an intelligence roll. Just intelligence.
Okay.
Don't add anything, just your base. Okay. So Anna, you wait. As you're getting a clearer view of Tam, there's something weird about her tail. Normally, Varg had these big, bushy gray tails. Gray, depending on the fur color.
Yeah.
There's just something odd about her tail that you can't quite put your finger on because, you still have all this fog and, distortion to look through. But
I figured that's where the frostbite was going to be anyway. It's probably still in there.
yeah, probably so. So you wait for this thing to cycle enough, and then, okay, John and Emiko, let's get her out. And they do that. John, don't worry about the roll. Emiko raises up the thing. You get fewer cryogenic gases flooding the chamber, so not quite as much fog. And you race in there to look after Tam. And that's when you see Tam is in there, all right, but there's something else too,
Hmm.
and it was unclear whenever you were throwing her out, but you can see it pretty clearly now. That thing. Oh. See what that roll
Specimen
was.
jar.
Language? Oh, it's not moving. It was frozen like Tam was, but it was hidden, by her bulk. So how do you want to deal with this?
Is it big enough or small enough to fit in the toilet and flush it down?
I think it's probably too big for that. Although if you chop it up, you could probably manage.
Anything she recognizes? I mean, physiologically.
Was a 6? No. It rings a
Okay.
bell though. You're pretty sure you've read about something like this, but you've never seen one before.
Space herp.
All right, Loki. Your language roll doesn't count.
Bitterman's nodding in agreement with Anna.
Yeah. That's a little better. But same thing, on the medic roll. You're pretty sure you've actually seen illustrations of this before in medical literature, but it's not something that's taught because you've never seen one before. You're not even sure what it is. All right. So how do you want to proceed? You've got Tam and this thing in there. You still got to deal with Tam, and now you don't even know what the hell's going on with this thing.
Are they attached or just in there?
No, not attached. Just in there. It's like you actually have Tam's arm around the thing,
Hmm.
as though almost protectively.
I don't know.
Loki, you're on scene. Another medic roll. Okay, mechanic doesn't do it. That's a worse medic roll. All right. Well, you still have Tam to deal with, so you might as well focus on your original goal, right? Okay. So you've already made your roll for that. Similar to Cap, you are able to. Okay, great. Slowly raise the temperature. Try to save what you can. There's going to be some amputation necessary. I got you. Unfortunately, a little bit more than Cap's, but still, it's not as bad as you were looking at with Sharpie.
Yeah.
But all the while, you've got this thing there. How it's thawing out too, and it might be having similar problems that the others have. You don't know, based on your roles, you don't know its physiology well enough to even know. If is it dead? Is it going to survive this? I mean, what's the deal?
Perhaps we should stick that thing in a cooler till one of these people can talk to us.
So, what's your decision? Okay, hold on, one at a time.
Have we finished with Tam? Is she ready?
Yeah, you have.
Going to Tim can do the same thing with the little thing while we're here.
Okay. Try your medic rolls.
Yes, I can try it. I won't necessarily make it. I can try it. That's
Oh
better,
wow!
much better.
All right. And then go ahead, Anna. Make another medic roll and see how you do. Oh yeah, look at you guys.
Yes,
Okay. So when you get Tam out of the way, and you're able to see more and more of this thing instead of just kind of one of the appendages, sticking out, it finally dawns on you. Yes, you do know what this thing is. It's a hiver. It's one of the major sylphant species from the old Imperium. It's an intelligent critter.
Hmm.
Now you don't, because of your roles before, you don't know much more about that, but you do know hivers were a major part of the old order. They had their own huge society, starships, you name it. And you also know that yeah, they're not any tougher than anybody else when it comes to being stuck in a lowberth. So you're going to have to tread carefully, which you do. You know that the hivers the important thing, their core is essentially in that central mass. That's where their brain is. That's where their primary digestive and circulatory organs are. And all of these other manipulators, some of them have a special purpose, like the one that looks like a head isn't really the head. It's just where their sensory organs are. That's probably the most important one to try to keep intact. So you do what you can. And you're pretty sure that, okay, we do not have any meds or say blood to work on this creature, but you're pretty sure that with a minimum number of amputations of those appendages, that okay, it's going to survive. We just don't know, what it is going to do, or what shape it's going to be in whenever it finally becomes conscious. So same deal. You probably need to haul it off someplace so it can recover. You don't really know much about it. You finally recognized what it was based on those rolls, and you finally knew enough to be able to not let it die. But yeah, you don't know anything much more about it. All right. So yeah, you have found a hiver.
We have one more pod to open, right?
Two.
Two
That's
more.
the old guy and Sharpie.
Right. I forgot about old guy.
So where do you want to go?
The old guy be easier.
All right, let's do the old guy.
And
Okay, let's see your medic rolls.
And he's probably more of a lost cause, but we'll see.
That's a very good roll. Very good rolls. All right. You're getting so many medic rolls in there. I'm not sure if. Okay, there we go. In addition to that, make actually John make an intelligence roll. Okay, very good. So start bringing up the temperature, draining out the cryogenics, and you get to the point that you're ready to pop the top. Again, all of these you're having to pop the top before you normally would, so you can get in there and start working on them quickly. So John, you're doing your thing, and you signal to Emiko to pop that top, and that's when you notice, he's holding on to something.
Everybody got contraband?
Yeah. There are two things you notice about this. His hand, and John isn't sure if it's because of the frostbite or not, but his hand is almost blackened and blistered. And he seems to be holding on to something that looks like a twig.
Did you say a twig?
Yeah, a twig. Like a branch, a twig.
I'm
You don't notice that. The only person that sees it is John.
One chooses the wizard, Harry.
And so what would John do? You have like a couple of seconds for Emiko lifts the capsule off.
Even given his memory, you would figure dude had been completely eaten up if it was one of those twigs.
Yeah, John wouldn't necessarily know about that anyway.
Precisely. He probably just says,
So he just kind of notes it, and Emiko lifts it.
Yeah.
So cryogenics flood on into the compartment. Yeah. The cryogenics flood into the compartment, and let's see who rolled the best. It was Loki. So Loki, you get in there and you start working, and you're working on his legs. And remember, this one was unusual because it looked like his core and the brain had perhaps suffered more damage than the extremities, which is not at all what you'd expect.
yes.
all right.
The strange thing is that as soon as you get to one of his legs, to get to the injection site, it looks like it's it looks like it's slightly burned. And
make a
again, you don't have to
medical-
roll for it. It looks like what it would look like if you had second-degree burns, but the blisters have been cut away.
Not sure of any weapon that can do that.
Okay. So, Anna, you notice something similar, except your job, you're going after the core. You're trying to figure out, okay, what's going on with this guy's,
Yeah.
heart, respiratory system. And you get in there and okay, well, the first thing we got to do is get it warm enough so you can kind of take a blood sample, and then, whoa, okay, try again. Find another site. When you take non-oxygenated blood from a human, it looks dark.
Yeah.
When you take oxygenated blood, it looks bright red, and that's the hemoglobin. It doesn't
Right.
have oxygen or not. The blood sample that you just took from this fellow looks neither. It looks pitch black, tarish almost. Okay. Waiting to see all the comments as they come in. All right. Apparently,
Waiting to see what?
comments. Let's see here.
Okay.
Yeah. Samuel has a suggestion.
Yeah.
Let's see. Anna, make a dex check.
That's sort of interesting.
It should. Oh man.
Yeah.
So,
Next.
Anna, you're puzzling over what the hell? This black. You're not even sure what it is. It doesn't. It looks like nothing like you'd expect from blood.
Hmm.
That's when you notice the injection site. Where you pop and you just that. It's just a tiny syringe. You don't have to go 6 inches in with a needle or anything. You just pop and took that blood sample from venous blood near the surface. A tendril of something resembling what you have in your syringe has escaped from the tiny wound that the needle left and is wrapping itself around your wrist.
Fire. Yeah.
But she's holding up that lid, and she,
Oh, yeah.
so what do you do at that point? Kind of specific.
Well, probably it's like Yosemite saying, close it, close it, close it up again.
Okay, make a strength check.
Equally as bad.
Yeah, equal is bad. No, this is a blast from the past, but it's not the one you think. I think.
A little better though.
Okay, hold on. Your strength roll is great. Yeah. So yeah, Anna reacts in a panic and rips away, and sure enough, you manage to just rip right out of this thing's grasp. You're not very successful with whatever you were trying to help Anna, but Anna didn't really need the help because she's well motivated now. Close it up, close it up, close it up again. So sure enough, Emiko does exactly that. Slams it down. And John, I imagine without even thinking, you're like, seal it, seal it, seal it.
Yeah.
Seal it, seal it, seal it. And about the time you finish putting in the last bolt very quickly, you're racing around it and kind of actually shoving Loki out of the way so you can seal. Loki, you've stood back, and Anna, you've stood back, and Emiko's holding the thing down. And John, you put your last bolt in, and all of a sudden the entire inner chamber just kind of explodes into black. What do you do?
Go work on sparking.
And I think Samuel was right. Jettison.
Okay. Emiko doesn't need any. Yeah. Okay. She just picks up that whole pod and just marches it right to the nearest airlock. Off it goes.
Throw that syringe out.
Oh,
Hard me saying that.
that was shocking.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was shocking. So everybody comes back and you're kind of looking at each other. Let's see. Make education checks. The medic types and science types, and an intelligence check for John. Okay, good, good. Right. So Loki and Anna, with a sinking feeling, you realize that you don't know exactly what that was. But if you were following normal containment procedures, you broke them pretty badly just now,
Oh yeah.
because you opened the pod, whatever air was in there escaped into the cargo bay. Then, when you decided to shove it out an airlock, you had to go from the cargo bay to the connecting compartment, to the engine room, to the starboard nacelle, and then to the airlock. And all those compartments have been potentially exposed to whatever was in the air that was inside that pod.
Yeah.
Now, you guys are wearing suits, Emiko's in battle dress. So, assuming that it's not something that eats through that, then you're okay for the moment. But if you start working in Sharpie right now without cleaning up whatever might be there, then you're going to be. So, how do you want to proceed?
Can we clean out an airlock, sanitize it, and put the pod in there, sanitize a airlock, and then go in and do the thing?
Sure, but you probably want to go ahead and try to figure out what there is to sanitize, because you have to move Sharpie's pod, which has itself been exposed.
Yeah.
Wherever you're going to move it. So probably the sanitation and cargo hold needs to happen first. See if there is something, a danger that leaked out of that pod that the old guy was in. And then that'll advise as to what you need to do next. So science rolls. And by the way, this news is getting up to you guys that we're meeting with Eliethia. That this drama has happened. There was something really unexpected in the old guy's pod. So now the rest of you can participate. Okay. So Loki, we'll say that you've got a handy dandy. You've got your normal kit, your computer and such. Yeah, well, that's it. It's getting there. So you'd already basically sealed off the cargo hold. So the vast majority of whatever was inside that pod, if it was airborne, is still in the cargo hold. There might be some elsewhere. So okay, let's look around. Let's see if there's anything to see. And indeed, there is. In the shape of the pod where it sat on the cargo hold floor is a kind of a dark gray residue.
Purify it with fire.
I'll find out what it is first. Fire may not work if you don't know.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. So anybody else with science type rolls want to take a crack at that? All right, that's good. All right. Well, we'll go with that biology roll then. It's pollen, a large accumulation of what appears to be pollen. The pollen, it's not alive, but it has the medical scanner that you're using to determine this says that it has some highly allergenic properties, shall we say. In other words, there's a 80 to 90% chance of death if it comes in contact with human skin, even a tiny amount.
Everybody suit up.
So yeah, that brings the next question. So how much of this stuff may have escaped? And it's the vast majority of what you're seeing happened whenever the pod opened and the cryogenic stuff flooded out the sides and hit the floor. And most of the stuff in that atmosphere just deposited there. But yeah, some of those pollen particles managed to spread out throughout the cargo bay. Now you had the atmosphere in the cargo bay air circulation turned off. You guys were in suits. And there was no need to spread cryogenic gases throughout the rest of the ship. So, that's good. But you did open the door in a rush to get this guy out of here. So that's there's no telling, if indeed it spread to other parts of the ship and how much of it. Probably not a lot, and you're not sure how much is lethal. But yeah, getting in suits is probably good advice. So I can almost see the scene where you're trying to put a suit on the press. It's like, she's like, no, I hate that thing on my head. I can't smell anything.
Right.
But give me like a mechanic roll.
There's no kind of skiff or anything on this ship, right?
There is. Yeah, you have a ship's launch.
Oh, well, that might be where Pris stays.
Oh yeah. As long as you deactivate everything, because she's kind of like Pop, Oracle here. She likes to press the buttons. Okay, that's good. How about John? But I think that'll get it. Let's see what John says.
All right.
Because you're the man on scene that knows about the environmental systems and what it's capable of filtering out. Okay. So here's what you think. You think you turn off air circulation in all the compartments that Emiko passed through in order to get outside. Take your time and go through and clean up the particles you can find. Essentially, a shop vac. And then dump the air. Just dump it all to space. There may still be remaining particles on some surfaces, but by getting them out of the air, the ones that are on surfaces will tend to freeze, be easier to find, or there'll be so few of them, according to the medical types, that they won't be lethal if they actually happen to hit somebody. That does mean you're going to lose a lot of air.
Yeah.
Because you're not talking about taking the air and putting it in your tanks and then repressurizing. You're talking about actually vacuuming those compartments. But, this is extreme firefighting. No oxygen, no fire, no air, no pollen. Is that the plan that you want to follow?
Yeah, I think so.
So it takes about 20 minutes to execute all that. And then you cycle the air back in. You hope that everything's cool because your medical scanners, you're not seeing any further traces of this stuff. Now that you've got rid of the pod that it was in and the major traces of the residue. Again, it's likely that there probably are particles here and there, but with luck, they'll get caught by the filtration system in the ship, which should be capable of catching the bigger particles, but not necessarily the smaller ones. They come in different sizes.
Yeah.
So, okay, that was something. Sharpie.
Just as an aside, before that comes up, while we're dealing with all this, Janice wants to know what the hell Eliethia had us bring on board our ship.
Okay, fair enough. Janice is as surprised as the rest of you, or not Janice, Eliethia is as surprised as the rest of you as to what happened with Penubian there. But she goes ahead and says that the other three were members of a crew that saved her life and the life of John's father. But this last guy, she didn't really know all that much about. She did know that he was a wanted criminal, and but didn't think that was going to happen. Yeah, she maybe. Yeah, that's her explanation of it. This fella's name, she recalls, was Penuvian. He was a geneticist that caused a great deal of trouble for the population of a particular world who had a tree with lethal pollen. That might explain the pollen that you just encountered. Not lethal, but it would cause such a severe allergic reaction that the allergic reaction would kill you. So, yeah, she doesn't know his story. He just happened to be on the same ship as these other guys, and she wanted to hear, from him what he knew.
Yeah.
Now that's impossible because it looks like he himself may have created a booby trap. That's very much what it looks like. He was holding on to this twig, and sure, nobody shoved that in his hand, or maybe somebody did. So you may find out very shortly. No, she wasn't aware that was going to happen, but she does know generally who that was, and apologizes for not giving you more details. You were kind of busy talking about other things. Does that satisfy Janice? Okay, so medic skills for Sharpie. And remember, this one's the hardest, so make him good. Yeah, that looks like he did. That's pretty decent. Let's see Anna's. Wait, let me mouse over that. Is it a 10 or an 18? It's still pretty good. Okay. So it takes you.
10.
Yeah, it's a 10. So Sharpie is the one that you have to really, really work at. You do the same thing you did with the others. You slowly raise the temp, but you have to stop it when it's still very cold because you need to get in there and start working with the extremities before he thaws out. So that means it's a bit more shocking for you, John, because when you go in there and you open the door really, really does not want to open. There are a lot of safety overrides at this temperature because we're talking like minus. It's cold enough to freeze carbon dioxide, so well into the negatives. And it's okay. So you've got the bolts out. Now you have to deal with the magnetics. Now you have to deal with the interlocks, safety systems. Man, this thing does not want to get open. But you finally do it, and it still takes Emiko a couple of good tugs. Crunch. Now, remember, I said that the thing is just mind-bogglingly cold still, and so that's no problem for the suits. But a lot of the cargo that's in the cargo bay doesn't survive contact with cryogenics. You have some of the crates that are over the side, and they actually crack, and you see that, and it's like that shocks everybody because there's this loud, just snap, and you look over your shoulder, and you see a crate full of spare parts that just spilled out all over the cargo bay floor. And what's even more shocking is a couple of those parts made of plastics have shattered when they hit the floor. That's how cold this stuff was. So you're like, thank goodness for the suit. That also has some implications for the instruments that you're using that you hadn't really, you didn't really have a choice, but you're going to have to. Okay, great. Now it's so cold that some of these instruments may not work as expected, or they might snap. So you're having to deal with that. Like I said, this is going to be a hard one. So it takes you like 90 minutes, but at the end of it, you have had to amputate one of his feet and essentially an arm and some other, tips of fingers and toes. The tip of his nose, but he kept his tail. The tattoo was satisfied.
Yeah.
So Sharpie lives, but there's some question as to whether Sharpie will be able to see. You're not sure about his eyes. I mean, you saved him, but there's a lot of damage. So you won't know until he wakes up and can tell you about it. So yeah, you managed to save Sharpie. He's alive, but with those qualifications, and motor him off into one of the staterooms, and you can have somebody look after him for a while. So there you go. You've got 4 peeps. One was unexpected. But you manage to save Cap, Tam, Sharpie, and the mystery Hiver. And then Penuvium self-destructed, and there was
Yeah.
much rejoicing.
Bitterman erases that aspect from the ship log. We found 3 low bursts.
Yeah, cross out 3. Yes.
Never mind the alliteration on the audio track labeled Splorch.
Yes, it was definitely a splorge. Okay. So that's that situation. Now, after everybody got in suits, after the Penuvian incident, what about up top? What are you folks talking about? And did you have any other questions for Eliethia?
So what's a hiver?
You would know. She tells you. A hiver is one of the main sylphan species of the old Imperium. Actually, they had their own territory and colonies. They're actually they're very different than human species, but they are extremely cooperative, peaceful, long thinking. They're one of the most resilient races amongst all the Sophans. They have some. They're intimidating in their own way, in a peaceful way. They're not exactly passive necessarily. That's not what I'm saying, but they're the sort that don't go looking for fights. They're generally very well respected. They also and she asks, why are you asking about this? Because no one's told her that you found a hiver.
I mean, does Bitterman even know? Sorry, I didn't realize they weren't talking to us.
Well, they were eventually, but that doesn't necessarily mean she doesn't have a comm dot. So when news comes from those guys down there that, hey, we found a hiver, she doesn't get that message, and it's not like she's probing everybody's minds all the time. She's been doing that selectively at certain points.
So you're saying they don't grow from Varv tails?
No, they don't. And she kind of creases her eyebrows at that. In fact, their life cycle is also unique, and I think a lot of people find it alarming. I remember being on a hybrid, and I enjoyed it a lot because they're, like I say, they're highly cooperative. They're different. But one thing that they do is how to describe it? I'll put it this way. So they're making babies all the time. I mean, you don't even notice it as a human. It's something they do all the time. They're asexual. And the young, as they come out, kind of find their way throughout the ship, the little larvae. So they actually, before they dock, fumigate the ship to kill the young, because there might be like 30 or 40 of them just in random ship system. They're not sentient yet, according to them. And if the young survive like a year, they're in like Lynn. But yeah, it's really alarming the first time you're on a hybrid ship when they go fumigating their larvae. So again, why did you ask?
Oh, they found one.
Oh, really?
Yes, in one of the pots.
Oh, and she's very interested. She wants to go see if you'll allow it.
It's like you can. They may not let you in just yet.
And that is the case. They just leave these folks alone. We're still treating them. They're recovering. You can check out the hiver later. But you can, based on a photograph of it, and this is a young hiver. It's well past its larval stage, so it's fully sentient at this point. I couldn't tell you anything other than we're going to have some problems communicating with it because they do not speak.
Hmm.
Their language is entirely body language, writing, and yeah, it's going to, the language barrier is going to be significant if we can't find a way to talk to it.
Well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. The only question I have at this point is, now that the one hard task is over, another is getting back to the ring world. Now, we had trouble entering into this area during our jump.
Relenka's teams who were trying to capture and activate that thing. And I think that the reason why is the is the jump cannon. It being active is going to create difficulties with any entry into jump space nearby.
Now, we weren't that close to it when we came in. Now, my question is this going to affect our jump out?
He shrugs. I'm not an astrophysicist. I don't know. I assume it will because it affected your jump in.
That's when he would confer with Sam what he thinks. If we should just cruise and get just further in the system for a while, then jump, or just go ahead and jump and just roll the dice.
I think we give it some distance.
So be it then. Give it some distance.
All right. So how much distance do you want to give it? I mean, you're thrusting 4Gs. Engines are fine. You're accelerating. So the longer you go, the faster you go. You want to give it some hours, a day, days. Just kind of give me an idea, and then we'll deal with the aftermath.
Well, I mean, I'd like to jump before it explodes, that's for sure. Which, how long that would be, who knows? And I'm not willing to stick around to find out. I'd say give it some hours, maybe a day,
Good. Okay.
to make our jump.
So here's what happens. Somebody with sensors. Would you roll that? Let's see if I can find there. Nice. Okay. So Loki, you've been kind of keeping an eye on stuff.
This is old before.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, the medic types who you've been at, by the way, the medic types, you're exhausted. You just spent essentially like 12 hours of surgery, dealing with the emergencies that you have been dealing with those guys. Good job, by the way. You're pretty sure nobody else would have done any better. So taking a little break, just watching the screen. It's Loki and Anna both chatting about what you've seen, taking alternate naps. It's been a long day. All right, let's get this set up here. All right, gotta take this guy and do that. Blah 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 blah. So the field has been expanding at that steady rate. At some point within the a couple of hours, it passed by the trial in there, and you totally lost sight of that jump of that far trader. And let's see here. But you're looking at it, and all of a sudden, that kind of glowing sphere kind of flickers and just seems to melt. There's a flash of blinding white light. And when it clears up, you see this in its place.
Folks, check your screens.
Pretty.
Now that beam is an energy beam of some sort that is not directed at the system that you're headed towards. It's not directed at the ring world system, which is kind of You're not sure what's in that direction. You're in the void out there. The Great Rift. Very few stars. But yes, it looks like it's just this huge swirling mass of energy with a focused energy beam coming out of it that just goes off in the speed of light, off into the distance someplace. It would be time to leave. Yes. Because there's a shock wave associated with the disappearance of the black globe that is expanding out at the speed of light in your direction. And because after about a day, you're several light hours away from it, you got to see the thing melt. So even though you're light hours away, the melting and the shock wave are going to be quick because it's all going to reach you at the same time. So time to leave.
She was rolling that to trace where the beam was heading to.
Try another roll, because I think you ought to keep that one for your trip back to the ring world. Because that's your primary concern right now, because you don't know how much seconds that you have to fire up the engine and go. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm like, Sam,
So-
punch it.
Yeah, you guys are psyched out. You, Sam, your normal things. These folks are up there just keeping an eye on stuff, and after all, Loki's your navigator. So most of the rest of you are, you're kind of back there taking care of things, your leisure time activities, quote unquote, keeping an eye on the people that you just rescued, or talking with Eliethia, trying to catch up on some of the events that she knows. And almost without warning, the lights dim, and you get the jump warning, and you hear the jump engine begin to spin up. And John, you're back there, working on like a power transfer system, and it lights up right with you there. And you're like, whoa! You hit your head on your way out of that crawl space. Even though it's like, what? Nobody warned you. It's just like, boom! It's on.
I told you to check your screens.
Well, he's in the middle of working on something. You go ching, 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 ching. He barely hears you. And the ship jumps. It just goes, within seconds. That's good because, it didn't take long for that shockwave to catch up to where you were. So yeah, Sam, punch it. But you do manage to escape. As for your other astrogation roll, there's really nothing in the direction that thing's pointed at for hundreds of light years. There might be a system that's 200 or 300 light years away that's kind of close to that direction, but you really weren't able to look at it long enough to nail that down.
Right.
Besides, to your estimation, it wasn't. You don't know how this tech works, but it wasn't something that was moving at the speed faster than light. It seems to be a bolt of energy moving at the speed of light. Take a while to get there. Okay, well, that is where we're going to pause it. You have escaped from the big glowing ball of death. You've met and spoken to Eliethia, gotten a little bit of the history behind all that. You haven't had a chance to speak to the folks that you've saved yet, but that'll come in the next game. All right. So any questions, comments, questions, verbal abuse?
Good show, gang. I appreciate that. Sorry, I've
We're going
been
to be paranoid about anything with green.
That was the root of all this evil. That's right. The knights that say knee. No, you're welcome. And next week, I believe we're back to Mr. Peg,
Yep.
the
Absolutely.
Cyberpunk. So, looking forward to a train heist.
The great train heist.
Y'all slow down. Make it easy for us.
Yep.
That's right. First day is coming up quick. So,
and we'll see you on the box again tomorrow.
Yep.
Y'all have a good one.
take care, everybody. Good night.
Woo!